Hi everyone. In this video, I will be teaching you how to use trig ratios to solve for side lengths of right triangles. So if you have not done the lesson from Tuesday 11:10 on trig ratios, you have to do that before doing this lesson. So if it is Thursday and you are watching this video and you have not done Tuesday's assignment, stop the video now and go back and do Tuesday before this lesson, or you will not understand. So for those of you that did do that lesson, as a recap, we will be using all of what we learned in that lesson in terms of how to create the ratios. Today what we're going to do is teach you how to solve to find the measure of angles. Excuse me, not angles, but sides. So if you want to wait and let me explain this and then pause it to take a picture, you're welcome to do so. So it says finding a missing side with a trig ratio. With trigonometry, you only need to know one side and an angle. One side and one angle. Other than the right angle, okay? Other than the right angle. So that might be, say I give you the measure of angle A, and I give you an adjacent side, or I give you the hypotenuse, or I give you the opposite, but I give you one side, and I give you one non-right angle measure. This is when we're going to use right triangle trig. And with trig, you only need to know one side and one angle in order to find the missing side length. And we're going to use x for that missing side length, okay? So next you must decide on how the given side and given angle relates to the missing side x. So how does that relate? So in other words, you're going to put your stick person at the given non-right angle. So let me write that down. Put your stick person at the given non-right angle. This is like what we did in the prior lesson, okay? You put your stick person and then you decide, oh, do I know the opposite? Do I know the hypotenuse, or do I know the adjacent, or what is it I'm trying to find? Next, we are going to set up an equation using the appropriate trig ratio. So all of this should be written in your notes, okay? Or like the other day, if you want to take a picture of this and use that as part of your notes, you can. But certainly, I think it's helpful to have all this written in your notes. All right, so what we're going to be doing, guys, is setting up these trig equations where we now have x. So it can be a sine equation, a cosine equation, or a tangent equation. So, and then we're going to solve it using proportions. So I'm going to kind of insert, in addition to what you see here, because this is my favorite way to solve it. I want you to think back to middle school and think about how you solved a proportion. Okay, let me focus this a little bit. So if I ask you to solve x over 5 equals 7 over 3, think about that, just a simple ratio. Remember, we said the cross products equal to one another. So 3 times x is 3x, 5 times 7 is 35. And then we divide both sides by the 3, right? So think cross multiply and divide is probably what you're used to, like 35 divided by 3. And then we can approximate that. Ooh, that's the approximate symbol. So 35 divided by 3 would be approximately 11.7. And that's essentially what we're going to do here. We're going to use that process, okay? So if x is on the top when we set up our ratio, So if you think about tangent, what do you know? Tangent is SOHCAHTOA, OA. So this would be our opposite and adjacent sides. So if our x is on top, then we just simply end up multiplying to solve. So in other words, if I think about this as a proportion, if I were to put this over 1 and think, oh, I'm just going to cross multiply, then I would have that x is equal to, I do recommend you put the 21 in front, 21 times the tangent of our angle, 56 degrees. Okay? So another way to think about this specific ratio and solving it is if I have tangent 56, so this is going to be of the given angle where we're trying to find a particular side. So whatever angle non-right angle they give you in the problem. So if I have tangent 56 equals x over 21, then I'm just going to slide this 21 in front here, and my x will equal 21 tangent 56, okay? Now that is an exact answer, but on your Delta Math assignments, you are going to need to round. So if I switch over to Delta Math, we're going to work out, by the way, I'm going to work out the first 9, and then you're just going to do 6 problems on your own, okay? So this is to help it sink in real good. So if I look at number 1, not that I'm going ahead and doing the problems, but it says round to the nearest tenth of a foot. So that's going to tell you to round to one number after the decimal. So that's what I'm showing you in the notes. So let's talk about how we take this exact answer and find the approximate value. Well, if you look down here at the bottom, it says what? Check your calculator mode. It needs to be in degrees. This is extremely important. So if you have a graphing calculator, awesome. You can press next to the blue second button, there's this button called mode. Press that, and you're going to want to go down and switch it from radian mode to degree mode. So move it over and then hit the enter button, and then I'll be in degree mode so that I can do calculations. Okay. If we are using the Calculate 84 app, then let me make sure I zoom this in so you can see it clear. This is what I'm assuming most of you will use. You do need this app, or if you have, you know, a different type of calculator and that you just don't have access to this, you need to text one of your teachers, message us or email us and say, hey, this is what kind of phone I have, or this is what kind of calculator I have, and we'll help you out. But it is extremely helpful if you have this app, okay? So if I were to type in this answer so that I can find my answer, again, the first thing I need to do is change it to degree mode. So I'm going to go to mode, and you can see where it says radian, and then right beside it says degree. I'm going to tap degree, or you can move your arrows, and then I'm going to press enter. So you can see that I am in degree mode now, okay? So I'm going to hit second mode to quit and go back to my normal screen. But again, I have to change the mode, and I'm going to keep it in degree mode for the entirety of doing right triangle trig, whether it's solving for sides or angles. So at this point, now I'm ready to type in my problem and find the approximate value so I can round it to the 10th place. So I'm going to type in 21. And if you've ever wondered, what are these buttons about? Now is when we're going to use them. See where it says sine, cosine, and tangent? This is not sin, cos, and tan. It's sine, cosine, and tangent. Remember we talked about we use the first 3 letters to abbreviate the words sine, cosine, and tangent. So if I need tangent, I'm now going to hit tangent here of 56 degrees. So 56, and I'm going to press enter. It should look like a normal side length. Like if we're getting 0.152 for a side length, that is not appropriate. So we should be in degree mode. And this value we would round to approximately 31.1. So, 31.1, and it's a side length, okay? So 31.1 units, whatever that unit is, okay? So again, if I were using this calculator, I would simply press 21 tangent 56. Okay, 31.1. All right, so what if when we set up our ratio, our variable is in the denominator? That's different, right? So if my variable, once I set it up, is in the denominator like it is here, so if x is on the bottom, I'm actually going to divide by the trig expression. Divide by the trig part, which is the sine, cosine, or the tangent part. Okay? Or you might want to think you're going to divide your right side by your left side. Oh, I wish I had more room here. Divide right side by left side. Divide your right side by your left side. So, and by that, what I mean is what number is on the right, you're going to divide it by the number on the left. Okay? So if we think of this as a proportion like I showed you earlier, so I'm showing you two methods, use the method that makes sense. If we are solving the sine of 72 equals 16 over x, if I think about that like a proportion by putting this over 1, then when I cross multiply, I get x times the sine of 72. Remember I said whatever is here is what you put in the front, equals 1 times 16, which is 16. Then to solve for x, this is one number, okay? So we're going to divide both sides by the sine of 72. So because of that, what that means is if our variable is on the bottom, then we're going to divide the number on the left, or excuse me, the number on the right. See how it says divide the right side by the left side? That's exactly what we ended up doing. We ended up doing 16 divided by sine 72. So 16 divided by sine 72. So now I'm going to show you how to type that in your calculator. If you have a graphing calculator, we're going to have 16 divided by sine 72, and that's about 16.8. And that's what we would type in Delta Math, okay? If we are using this on our phone again with the Calculate 84 app, then I'd have 16 divided by, let me zoom it so you can see it good, sorry about that. 16 divided by the sine of 72. And that's 16.8 also, see? If for some reason you're using, maybe you're using the Calculator X app, you would basically do the exact same thing. We would still need to go to, let me start over again. So again, if you're using the Calculator X app, when you go here to angle, see how it says radian and degree? You want it in degree mode. Then you still do it the exact same way. So that was 16 divided by sine 72. And again, 16.8. So that's using 3 different calculators. Hopefully you have at least one of those types, because you definitely will not be able to do this without a calculator that allows you to calculate sine, cosine, tangent. Okay. So that's how we do these problems. Now we're ready to apply what we know to setting them up and solving. So we are going to go to Delta Math, get some paper. I know it might seem like a lot, so the video might seem long, but I just want to make sure you have plenty of examples. If you feel like after a couple that you're like, I've got this, I don't need any more help, feel free to just turn the video off and finish the problems. Just make sure that when you turn in your work, you have work for all, 15 problems. I think that's right, because I think I said, 15, because I'm going to do 9, and you're going to do 6 independently. So like I said, you can follow along, or you can be like, oh, after I do a couple, be like, oh, I've got this. I just want to do it on my own and not have to watch this long video. And that's fine too, okay? Just know that with the required, the video, here you get credit based on if you write the whole thing. But if you have like a 95 plus or whatever, we know you've watched most of the video, so we'll still give you 100, okay? So I am going to click on number 1 on the Delta Math assignment for today, keeping my notes handy. And we are going to type this in write this on paper. So I'm going to set this up so that it's side by side. And then my Delta delta math. I'm going to minimize this. Let's see if it, there we go. That's what I wanted it to do. All right, so here we go. I am copying number 1 down in my notebook. Everybody should have these. Whether you're going to watch the whole video or not, you have to have the triangle, the ratio, and the answer for all of them. So we are copying number 1. Let's go ahead and label this that this is our 11, 12 delta math trig to solve 4 sides. Because next week when you're taking your test on this, you certainly would love to have notes, I'm sure, clearly labeled. Oh, how do I remember how to do solving for sides using trig? Oh yeah, let me go back and look at my notes. So it's helpful if you have it labeled. So number 1, I'm going to draw my right triangle. These are oriented just like they were yesterday, only this time they're saying E, D, and F, not A, B, C like the other ones. And they tell us this side is X, this side is 40, and this angle is 19 degrees. So how the heck do we get started? First thing we should do is look at this problem and put our stick figure. So think about our notes here. It says decide how the given side and given angle relate to the missing side. So I told you to put a stick person at the given non-right angle. So we're going to put a stick person right here at angle D. That helps me, because I'm a visual person, it helps me to go, okay, that means, if you think about the P sign from Tuesday's lesson, it helps me go, okay, that means for these 2 angles, I have to decide what am I going to label the sides that have the X and the number. The big thing is do not label a side that does not have a number. So we are not labeling DF at all. But what are these 2 sides in relation to angle 19? 40 is, of course, the hypotenuse. And this side way over here, not connected. Remember, adjacent means next to. And this side is next to. We don't know a value. We are not labeling A at all. This side over here is the opposite. Okay? So I'm only labeling where I have a number and a letter. Only. So because those are my opposite and hypotenuse, when I think of SOHCAHTOA, every time you do this work, you should just, at the top of your page, write SOHCAHTOA. Because I have O and H, which trig ratio am I going to use? Am I going to use tangent? No, because that's opposite and adjacent. Am I going to use cosine? No, because that's adjacent and hypotenuse. Do I use sine? Yes, because I have an X for opposite, which I'm going to solve for, and my hypotenuse has a measure of 40. So we use this angle measure and X and 40 to create our trig expression. So since we've decided it is sine, we're going to say sine using the first 3 letters. Sine of our given angle equals the opposite over the hypotenuse, which would be X over 40. All right. Well, now it looks like what we just did in the notes, right? So what did we do when our variable was on top, our X is on top? We multiplied, right? I told y'all you could just take this number here and stick it in front of your expression. So that's what I'm going to do. So again, you can think of it as, well, how would I solve this if I set up a ratio? It would be 40 times the sine of 19. The sine of your angle always goes together. And how do you remember that? Because if you remember up here, it was in your notes, it was always the sine of your angle, cosine of your angle, or tangent of your angle, right? So this is the exact value. Now I'm ready to type it in my calculator. So if you want to pause the video and practice type it in, that would be great. Again, once you change it to degree mode, you stay in degree mode. So 13.0 rounded to the 10th place. And it does say round to the nearest 10th of a foot. So I'm going to assume it's going to let me just type in 13.0. And it does, okay? In fact, it says it's about 13 feet, but because it said to the nearest tenth, you should put the 0.0, okay? So that's number one. Notice up here, I'm actually giving you directives. Oh, did I forget to number these? Renumber them? I don't know. I feel like one's missing. We're gonna be okay with that. There will just be one less problem that we do. So we're gonna go ahead and skip to number 3. So let's go ahead and change that to number 2. And I'm not even gonna worry about a number 1. Okay. So that means I guess I'm doing 8 problems with you. So that was number 2. So for number 3, I'm not gonna change it so it won't be different from the video. I'm gonna draw my triangle. And you definitely need to draw it every time. And now the X is where? It's where our what is, guys? Is at the adjacent hypotenuse or opposite side. Because it is opposite the right angle, it is our hypotenuse. So again, this one over here. So we know the hypotenuse is X. That's what we're going to solve for. And now think about this. If I put my stick person here, and I'm looking at it from this perspective, then this side here is my adjacent. I am not going to label if there is not a letter or a side. It will defeat the purpose, okay? Don't do it, because the point is I want the color to pop out at you and go, oh, A and H. Which one am I going to use? Sine, cosine, or tangent? Well, the only one with A and H is my cosine. So I'm going to say cosine of my given angle equals my adjacent over my hypotenuse X. So think about what we did. In our notes we said if our variable is on the bottom, then we're going to divide by the trig part. Or in other words, divide the number on the right by the number on the left. Okay? So again, 2 ways to think about it. You can say x cosine 19 equals 1.6. Then divide both sides by cosine 19. Or you can just recognize that it's the number on the right, and you're going to divide that by the number on the left. Okay? Either way, we end up with this ratio here that we're going to type into our calculator. So here we go. I'm going to type in 1.6 divided by cosine 19. And we get a measure of 1.7, about 1.7, if I round to the 10th place. Oops, sorry. And why? Because the second number, remember it's tenths, hundredths, thousandths. If the hundredths is 5 or higher, then the number before will go up 1. So because this 9 is higher than 5, then this 6 is going to go up to a 7. So that's a value of 1.7, which does seem reasonable, because if this is 1.6 and that's 1.7, that is a reasonable value. All right, next for number 4. So there's 2 main things. For one, you have to label the sides appropriately, because if you mislabel these, then you'll pick the wrong ratio. But once you write your ratio, then you have to remember, do you multiply or divide? And you have to figure that out by, remember, looking back at your notes or looking at these examples. So for number 4, notice we always have these triangles oriented the exact same way to make it a little easier for you. But now, if I put my stick person at the given non-right angle, it's going to go up here. But remember, we practiced that before, right? We practiced that on Tuesday. So how am I going to label these 2 sides? Well, both these sides are next to this angle, right? Both these sides are next to this angle. So they're both adjacent, but one of them has to be the hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse is always the side opposite the right angle. And therefore, this is the adjacent side. So what does that tell us we're going to use again? Oh, A and H is cosine. So I'm going to set up cosine of my given non-right angle will equal ca, x over 6.5. Okay? So again, if you think about putting this over 1 and solving it like a proportion, then x will equal 6.5 times the cosine of 13. So I'm ready to type that in my calculator. 6.5 cosine 13. And I get that it's approximately 6.3. All right, so I'm going to go over here. If at any point you're like, yeah, I get this, it's making sense, then by all means, feel free to stop the video and do 5 through 15 on your own. Just make sure that when you turn in your work that it has all of the problems from 2 through 15, okay? I'm not sure what happened. I think I accidentally deleted number 1. So for number 5, like I said, I'm still going to continue to go through number 9 just so you'll have extra support and help. So notice they're giving you information, but the information all this information they have typed is exactly what's in the picture. So it says the measure of angle F is 53, GE is 7.9, find the length of FG. So the point is, after a while, we should be able to give you these problems like this without the picture, and then you draw the picture. So let's look at what we're given. How are we going to label this? So again, where's my stick person going to go? All right, so I'm going to kind of prompt you and ask you to fill some things in on your own and maybe even pause the video. So if you want to pause it and then try it on your own, then pause it right now and then come back and check your answer. So again, peace sign, my 2 fingers here at this given angle. This x is going to be my adjacent side because it is next to the angle F, but it is not the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is over here, but do not label the hypotenuse so that you don't accidentally pick the wrong ratio. Way over here is my opposite side. So again, we're not labeling hypotenuse because there's nothing there. There's nothing to use to try to solve for x. So A and O. So ka toa. O and A, that's your tangent ratio. So now I'm ready to say tangent of my given angle, my given non-right angle, is equal to toa, opposite over adjacent. 7.9 is opposite over my adjacent, which is x. And then remember, it's just the right side divided by left side. I always like to do this so you'll understand where it's coming from, and so that, like in the future, if you forget, oh, which one do I put on top or bottom? At least you'll remember that you can set it up and solve it like a proportion. But yeah, it does end up being the right side divided by this left side. So here we go with 7.9 divided by tangent this time of 53. Ooh, interesting. So if I'm rounding to the 10th, this 5 makes this 9 round up to a 10. And when we round up to a 10, that means we're adding a whole number. So this is actually going to approximate to 6.0. Okay. See how here they're labeling, but there's nothing on the hypotenuse, by the way. So they give you a really good explanation here as well. If you're like, I like the detail on that, then feel free to take a picture, write it down for your notes yourself. We're going to do one more with tangent, and then we're going to do 3 where you have to pick the trig ratio. I don't even help you understand which one it is. So now this was 6. So I'm going to draw my triangle. I hope y'all find these videos helpful. I try to, put it in my notebook like I would if I were a student, so you'll know exactly how we want you to do it as well. All right, so again, P sign at the given non-right angle So this is where my stick person would go. If I were standing here on the corner, how would I label these two sides? Well, this side connects, but I don't have anything for the hypotenuse, therefore this is the adjacent on the bottom. And way over here, not connected to the angle, is the opposite. So again, that's going to be TOA, tangent. So tangent of my non-right angle is equal to OA. O is X, A is 7.4. And remember, you just put this 7.4 in front. But even if years from now you forget, just remember it's like solving a proportion, right? So X will equal 7.4 times the tangent of 59 degrees, which then is approximately 12.3. Oops. All right. So a 7, 8, and 9 I'm going to do with you, but if you would like to maybe pause the video and then do 7 and 8 and 9 on your own and then just resume it to check your answer, you're welcome to do so. I'm going to stop the video after 9 and you're going to do 10 through 15 on your own, remembering that when you turn in your assignment today, you should have basically all this written at the top, and then the work for 2 through 15, since somehow number 1 got deleted. All right, so moving on to 7. Now, again, here I'm telling you sine, use cosine, use tangent, but now I'm asking you to choose. So it's not choose whichever one you want, it's choose the appropriate one. You have to choose the right one or the answer will not be correct. So copying this triangle down. To be honest, I don't think you can at all do these problems, and you can't. I'm just telling you can't, without writing everything down. You have to have the right triangle drawn with this so that you can appropriately label what the sides are. So again, now I want you to kind of think, which ratio am I going to use? Well, let's just think how to label. So again, where would our stick person go? Put your stick person. Yes, it should go down here in the bottom right. If these are my two angles, the opposite side from my right angle is my hypotenuse. And what is this down here? So if you are really struggling, because I can tell you, the only holdup really on this stuff is students who struggle to label their sides appropriately. So you remember, you can either pull out your drawings. Let me find the other one that I did in the video. So if your stick person is up here, that's your O, A, and H. So if you want to think, oh, well, for this one here, oh, my stick person, or my angle is on the bottom, so I want this drawing where my stick person is at the bottom. So that means the side here is my adjacent, and my side here is the hypotenuse. So just use your notes to help you if you need to, if you're not catching on very well. So A and H means we'll use which one? So, ka, or toa. So, ka, so cosine. So I'm going to write cosine of 76 equals adjacent over hypotenuse. My variable is on the bottom, so I'll multiply. Or in other words, think about like if it was over 1. So x equals 27 times the cosine of your angle. I'll never mix these up. Make sure it's always the angle here, okay? So 27 cosine 76 would be about 6.5. Next, for number 8, And down here we've got 73 degrees. If you're still listening, by the way, put a big heart beside problem 8. Like, just draw a big heart. That way we can kind of gauge how many students are following through and listening to the video versus stop because they felt comfortable and moved on, okay? So from this angle, I'm not going to label my hypotenuse. Way over here is my what side? It does not touch the angle. That is your opposite. But remember, you can also use this, okay? So if my angle here is down in my bottom corner, then this side here is my adjacent, and this side up here, way across, is my opposite. So use your notes to help you. So OA, O and A, so katoa. So that's going to be tangent of my 73 equals opposite over adjacent, toa. But, so remember, it's the right number divided by the left number. So 75 divided by tangent 73, or you can set this up. I just want to do this because I find that when I've taught Math 3, it helps if students forget, if they just, oh, I forgot which one I put on top or bottom. Just remember how to think of it like a proportion, okay? So 75 divided by tangent 73, 22.9. So approximately 22.9. All right, last one. We'd love for you to try this on your own. So feel free to pause it, and let's see if you can just do this one because you're getting ready to do the rest on your own. So let's see if you can handle the next 6. So 5.1, this one is 49 degrees. Ooh, this time I have what? This time I have the hypotenuse. So this is my hypotenuse. Remember, your stick person would go down here. Eventually, you may not need the stick person anymore at all. That would be the goal. So hypotenuse and way over here, not connected, not beside this angle. Here is our opposite. So again, if you want to use that, your notes, if your angle is on the bottom, then your hypotenuse is this side and your opposite is this side. So since we have O and H, we're going to use so katoa. So sine of 49 equals opposite over hypotenuse. Again, if our variable is on the bottom, this is straight from our notes again. If it's on the bottom, you divide the right number by the left number, or divide by the trig part. But again, like I said, in Math 3, students would forget a lot which one you do, so I'm just going to write this out and solve it like a proportion, so as long as you can set it up, you'll know how to do it. So 5.1 divided by sine of 49 this time. Whoop. That third number is a 5 or higher, so I'm going to take that 7 and round it up to an 8. And I get a value of 6.8. So all of these will be rounded to the nearest tenth of a foot. So just make sure you're rounding to one number after the decimal. All right. So if you made it all the way to the end of the video, then do me a favor and beside problem 9, what can I have you write? Write your favorite animal. Favorite animal. Maybe a pet if you got a cat or a dog, or if you just think koala bears are cool. Write your favorite animal besides number 9, beside problem 9. That'll just help us to know who made it to the end of the video. All right. I know it was a long video, guys. Thank you for sticking with me. I just wanted to give you an opportunity to have plenty of support, but you certainly didn't have to listen to all of it. But thank you for sticking with me. Next, you will go ahead and complete the remainder of the problems in your notebook, so you've got 6 to try on your own. And guess what? It's probably pretty evenly distributed. there's 2 sine, 2 cosine, and 2 tangent. That's kind of a way to gauge, are you on the right path? You should have 2 sine, 2 cosine, 2 tangent, but they're in there randomly. All right, guys. Good luck.